Hello there, you're watching the Pulse on the Joy News channel. This afternoon, government is briefing Parliament on the country's plan to contribute troops to an ECOWAS standby force, which is destined for troubled neighbor Niger. But the House is sharply split over constitutional provisions and what the way forward should be.
Consultations are going to continue on this matter. This is a very sensitive matter. And since we have a collective agreement that we will not divulge the details at this point, I think that we should go with that.
We'll get to details of that meeting, which ended inconclusively today. Also coming up this afternoon, if you are a punter or a gambler hoping to win a bet or lottery from today, you have to brace yourself to pay some 10% of all the winnings to government in a withholding tax.
When I bet and then I win, you take 10%, but when I lose, what's going to happen? You're not going to give me any 10%. So it's not being fair. After all, it's my money I invested in the betting.
We'll hear from the Ghana Revenue Authority as that law takes effect today. Also in this package, we'll take a look at the corruption claims at the Passport Office after the Foreign Affairs Minister made an unannounced visit to the application center.
How can 100 Ghana for standard service to acquire a passport and 150 for expedited service be bumped up to 2,000 and 3,000? And yeah, they don't even charge 2,000 now. They are charging 3,000.
To the very latest on that, the Pulse as always is brought to you by Global Communities Digging Lu, affordable safe sanitation for all. You can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and also at myjoyonline.com for these and more. I'm Blessed again. Welcome to the program. We'll get you details shortly. Ghana's military leadership, especially representatives from the ministerial level and the Foreign Affairs Ministry, this afternoon engaging with some members of Parliament and also Parliament's Defence and Interior Committee, as well as the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament over Ghana's deployment of troops to Niger. Ghana is one of the countries that last week's ECOWAS meeting, which resolved to impose further sanctions on Niger and also issued an order for the deployment of troops. But there has been resistance from both civil society and opposition groups on Ghana's contribution of the troops to the ECOWAS standby force. Now, Defense Minister Dominic Nitio and other military leaders, we of course know, were briefed and of course had some engagements today on Ghana's deployment plans to Niger. Well, I was in Parliament a while ago monitoring that event, and here are excerpts of what transpired moments ago.
We're not too sure if that is also part of today's engagement, but you can see them filing through and walking into that meeting. So we'll be giving you live updates as and when we have them, but the IGP in your shot now, Dr. Akufo Dampari, they're walking into that meeting. We're not sure what the essence of the meeting is, but we will definitely keep you updated. This is the Joy News channel, and you saw also the Defense Minister, Dominic Nitio, declining to speak to us after that meeting with the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee. We're waiting to see what the official briefing will be from this joint meeting that has been sitting throughout the early parts of today to where we are now. We have the Interior Minister as well, also present here in Parliament, and we're waiting to see what the official briefing is. But if you're joining us now and you're watching us on the Joy News channel, I must update you that Parliament is indeed having a meeting with the National Security Minister and also the Defense Minister. What we do know is that following President Akufo-Addo's decision to also deploy that team, the Ghanaian troops, to join the ECOWAS force, there's been concern from the ranking of both the Defense and Interior Committee and also the Foreign Affairs Committees. The reason for which we had the National Security Minister, the Defense Minister, Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister also joining the meeting throughout the day. And what we do know so far is that there's been a concern about some of the constitutional requirements. Let's see if Honorable Andy Apiakubi will say a word. Hello, Honorable. Okay, he's not saying he's not sharing sharing a word with us. So we'll definitely be getting some updates shortly. I guess the agreement among some of the committee members was that the members must desist from making some media comments. As I don't know if that's or the official arrangement and what they have all come to agree on, but you can see live in your shots that the IGP just walking in a few minutes ago to engage the Interior and Defence Committee of Parliament. There are also representatives from the Foreign Affairs Committee there in your shot, as you see on the Joy News channel. Now, we must also indicate at this point, and I see there in my shots the Honourable Samuel Okucheto Ablakwa. Probably we might get a word from him to see what the fallouts from that meeting has been. But if you're watching the Joy News channel, we need to update you that the decision by the government of Ghana to opt for what it is that the president has decided on for the ECOWAS meeting is subject now to some discussions here in Parliament. We're waiting for the official briefing. At least if the majority side would not comment, as you've seen in the short, probably we'll get to some members of the minority side to say a few words to us. The Inspector General of Police also making an appearance today. We're waiting to see what the outcome of that engagement is. So if you're watching us now and you can see us live on your television, just stay with us here on the Joy News channel. We'll bring you some updates shortly. You see some other security chiefs also around. We're waiting to see what the briefing will be. So there they go in, moving into that briefing. I'm sure that it's all part of the series of engagements that will be happening as far as this whole stabilization force issue is concerned. The concern for some of the MPs, and I must run you through that throughout the morning, has been what the position of the Constitution is. Article 40 of our Constitution talking about the fact that in our dealings with other nations, the government shall, first of all, that's Article 40, the requirements 40A, promote and protect, as the Constitution is directing, the interest of Ghana. The B also talks about seeking the establishment of a just and equitable international economic and social order. Then the C, which is subject to the concern that the MPs on the committee have been raising, has been about promoting respect for international law, treaty and obligation. And here's what we need to point you out to: the fact that there's need for our country to opt for the settlement of international disputes by peaceful means. So that has been the concern of the MPs on the committee today. But the majority side appears to be raising concerns about the need to adhere to the principles enshrined in all, as the case may be, the aims of, first of all, the Charter of the United Nations, also the Charter of the Organization of African Unity, the Commonwealth, and there's also the last provision that the Treaty of the Economic Community of West African States. So there you see it, the ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Samuel Okucheto Ablakwa, walking out of the meeting. Honorable, you're live on Joy News. How did the meeting go today?
Well, we have decided that we will not disclose the content of the discussions and the outcome of the meeting. So I will just say that it's been a good meeting for now.
From my monitoring, I see that Article 40 has come up. Legal issues and concerns, as of course your other ranking on this other side, the chairperson of the committee, has been raising. Is Article 40 of concern to you as well as the minority?
The entire legality of anything that will happen must be of concern to all of us as lawmakers. And at the end of the day, it's about our national interest.
If that's anything to go by.
Article 73 and Article 40 is very clear.
Yes.
Our national interest must be at the center of any decision. Our national interest. And don't forget, Article 40C encourages peaceful resolutions of matters.
But if you go to D, we are to adhere with whatever decision the sub-regional body ECOWAS.
So as I've told you, the matters are very sensitive and delicate, and that's why.
But I'm talking about law, because I heard that come up on the committee. That this is a matter of law. It will come up strongly at you as the matter.
As you do know, consultations are going to continue on this matter. This is a very sensitive matter, and since we have a collective agreement that we will not divulge the details at this point, I think that we should go with that. But as time progresses, I'm sure that we are going to have.
How will you diffuse the legal argument? This is not about what transpired, but we know that.
So thank you very much.
Well, so that's the Honourable Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa just walking off in your shots there. We're still monitoring that development for you here from Parliament House, where of course we know that for today, and if you're watching the Joining channel, we need to update you that the joint meeting of the Defence and Interior Committee of Parliament and also the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament just had their meeting, and at that meeting we had the National Security Minister, we had the Defence Minister Dominic Nitiu, who you saw in your shots there. He wouldn't comment, he wouldn't speak, because the gentleman's agreement, as we understand from Parliament, is that they will not comment on the sensitive issues, and obviously it borders on the deployment of the military to join that ECOWAS force, which will be deployed by ECOWAS to stabilize the situation in Niger after the presidential guard toppled the democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum. That meeting lasted for more than an hour today. I must state that the chairpersons of the Defence Committee, the Foreign Affairs Committee were all present. The Honourable Patrick Yaobama there also declining to make any comment on the meeting today, but we're still waiting to see what else will come of this meeting. Just a couple of minutes ago as well, the IGP, the Inspector General of Police, George Akufo-Dampare, also walking into that meeting. We'll be going there briefly just to, and you can just come along with me as we take you back to that place where, of course, that meeting is happening. But you heard from the Honourable Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa indicate and point out to you that after today's meeting and the meeting that was held today, the firm decision has been made to tone down on media commentary. But here at Joy News, we have picked up that the main concern for these joint committee has been about Article 40 and what the article says about the legality and what the requirements are per our laws. Now, the requirements per the law is that if Article 40 is anything to go by, then it means that the president is helpless in terms of adhering to what the constitutional requirements are. Now, we know that the constitutional requirements will be that we must, of course, opt for whatever decision that ECOWAS has made. There is also the minority position indicating that if you go by Article 40, there is a requirement at C, 40C, which says that Ghana must opt for a resolution of international disputes by a peaceful means. That's what the Article 40 of the Constitution is saying. So that's where the minority stands to say we don't need the deployment of the military force, but the majority also sticking to what 40D points out, the fact that whatever decision the African Union will take, whatever decision the United Nations will take, and the ECOWAS will take, we need to abide by that. And what's been the requirements or decision of the African Union? The African Union a couple of days ago issued a statement backing and affirming their position that they would stand ready, shoulder to shoulder, to support the regional body, the sub-regional body, ECOWAS, in terms of whatever decision that will be made. So if ECOWAS says they're deploying or activating their standby force, the decision is African Union will go with that. And if we're to translate that to what it is that our constitution is talking about, then it indeed means that, of course, we would have to adhere to that. So that's what's been happening here at the Parliament House. And of course, we are the West Wing, where, of course, the decision will be made. We'll be hearing from members of the committee shortly who would probably speak to the media. The gentleman's agreement is not to make a comment, but we'll still be around giving you the very latest and of updates that you need. Blessed Sugan reporting from Parliament House. Keep you updated. This is our special coverage of that meeting between the Defence Minister, the National Security Minister, and also members of the Defence and Foreign Affairs Committee, live from Parliament.
Also, we're asking that question, how should Ghana approach the situation? We'll bring to you shortly the analysis on this. But first, though, the impact of the crisis is being felt across the SAP region, with hundreds of trucks delivering onions to Ghana being blocked at the Benin border. Nana Aljima of our Foreign Affairs Desk is delving deeper into the matters there.
The Kwaraso Onion Market is the biggest in the Ashanti region. At least 30 trucks, each carrying about 330 bags of onions, are offloaded at the beginning of every week. On a typical day at the market, 5 trucks are offloading onions at the market. Truck driver Mohammed Salisu was stranded carting onions on the border for a week. He says it took intervention of Ghana's embassy to the landlocked country to get access for the trucks bound for Ghana.
Obio 11, 10, Missouri and Okore, 1 week.
Some trucks have been on the border for 10 to 12 days. I stayed there for just a week.
Masajai. As Obiano, just a year, your friend say, Ghana ambassador, no, yes, actually, no, a penny.
We had to call the Ghana ambassador's office, who sent a delegation to the border. The ambassador also came the following day to resolve the issue.
Mumuni Abdullahi, who was bound for Niger, had to divert his route to Nigeria to get onions after being stranded at the Benin borders for days.
We spent days on the border, so we had to change our destination to Nigeria to get some onions.
Video footage available to Joy News shows hundreds of trucks carting onions stranded at the border. The contents of the trucks are already rotten away. Some of the trucks are offloading the onions for local traders. About 100 trucks expected to deliver onions to the Kwadaso market are locked up in Niger for many days. Each truck is transporting at least 300 bags of onions at the cost of 1,500 cedis each. An estimated 45 million cedis worth of onions remain locked up at the border for fear of terrorist activities at the Niger-Burkina Faso borders. The route is not an option for the truck drivers. Mohammed Amidou early morning received 350 bags of onions he had imported. After opening the sacks, most of them were rotten, forcing him to sell the little he could salvage for 200 cedis per bag instead of 1,500 cedis.
We can't do anything. We look up to God now. I will have to search for a loan to help me get back into business. If I don't get a loan, we thank God.
Many importers at the onion market count their loss. Mumuni Alabila has 2 trucks of onions locked up in Niger. It is unclear when these trucks will get to cross the border. He wants the ECOWAS to find a solution to the present situation.
We the onion trailers, we are get a bank loan and doing our business. When the cars block over there, it affected us more. So as now we don't know what we are going to do. We are appealing the government to do what he will do and get our goods to come. Some of our goods is fall over there. About 2 years now. So when we are here, some of the traders are here now. Some of us, they are in hospital. 2 of my brothers, they are in hospital because of their money collapse over there.
The onion retailers who have purchased the bags offloaded in the morning dip their hands through the onions poured on the ground in search for those in best shape. They find it difficult retrieving the good ones.
They are all rotten. We have paid them already. We pay for the onions before we get the opportunity to open the sacks. So we are incurring losses.
School fees
We are near Juma, yeah.
Ba me fa bato 5. So jene ni omo ya no majisikana ansa no omo jisikana ansa no mo di jene.
I bought 5 sacks and they are all rotten. If this continues like this, how do we take care of our children?
Wow, yenye bi ni men ni e fa to bi ni e kan ko an ye bo na se wanya osika kakra bi da wa no akofa de ahyem na da ba betwa omo ka.
According to the traders, the locally cultivated onions are least preferred by consumers for diverse reasons. Some have nicknamed it sobolo due to the red color. Here are other reasons some consumers shy away from the local variety.
Papa me so akwachima na we dia me mpe jene be nie jene uche ya na me say jene we ne wo we ne debi.
It was very difficult to sell the local onions. The customers kept complaining.
Mana me say me say bra me sundane mana me sui na me say rade mo na yento me jene ma me enka kranka sa na jene nitimi ye den e san ma me enti na ma nyon say we ne say do mesia aka ho asem no the customer ko bi obi ase wo mpe.
Until this situation is curtailed, probably there's time to be shortage of onions on the market. For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima reporting.
Well, after the meeting today, there's a raging debate amongst MPs, both on the Interior and Defence Committee as well as the Foreign Affairs Committee, over Article 40 of the 1992 Constitution and what the provision is regarding the deployment of an ECOWAS force. That's been the debate leading to the meeting abruptly ending in Parliament today. So let's get to the requirements of what it is that the article talks about. There you see it on your screens, Article 40, talking about the fact that in its dealings, and here talking about the country with other nations, the government shall first of all promote and protect the interest of Ghana. That's the first requirement. B talks about the need to seek the establishment of a just and equitable international economic and social order. The minority appears to be basing their arguments around point C, which talks about the need to promote and respect international law, treaties, obligations, and the settlement of each of these international disputes or controversies that may emerge, according to the minority, should be handled in a peaceful manner. Now, here's where the majority appears to be raising their concern. They're talking about point D, which gives President Akufo-Addo no other option than to contribute to the force, basically because of what he says, that the country must adhere to the principles enshrined in, or as the case may be, that aims to the ideals of, first of all, the Charter of the United Nations, the Charter of the Organization of the African Unity. We also have the Commonwealth, and 4 talks about the Treaty of the Economic Community of West African states and any other international organization which Ghana is a member of. That is where the majority appears to be citing their arguments, pointing to the fact that the president has the constitutional mandate. In fact, the president is helpless in their view in terms of opting out of this deployment of the military force. That meeting ended inconclusively, and will definitely bring you some updates as and when we have them. My colleague Jacqueline Ansumayebu engaged some Nigerians as well who have migrated to Ghana in search of greener pastures. Here's what we found.
In the bustling streets of Ghana, a group of Nigerians find themselves in precarious situation. Most of them are here begging for alms in the streets. Today, I'm with a couple of them to find out the reason why they are here and if they are willing to go back to Niger as a coup is currently ongoing in their country. I also have Mariama with me right now, and kindly ask her how about Ghana, how many years in here?
I've been here for 3 months. I'm here because we don't get food to eat back at Niger.
3 months in
In regards to the coup and the closing of border, what do you think about it? We have heard of the coup and the fighting, and we also have a lot of kids there. That's why we are here to get what we can back home. In entirety, what does she think about the coup which is ongoing in her country?
den no dwen fa ho say eye ana say enye eno na me pese me
We have heard of the coup and the fighting, and we also have a lot of kids there. That is why we are here to get what we can and take back home. If you people can help us with some money and food, we'll go back to Niger and support our children there.
Because
of hunger into no mobile na hunger ni on buy still there concern.
Why are you willing to go back if there's still hunger there?
Willing to go back and no na mean and why?
This isn't our country, so regardless, we'll have to go back, but we just want to have enough money to take care of our kids when we get there. What brought you to Ghana? There's no food, money, nothing at all in Niger, so we came here to ask for help with food and money. In regards to the coup and the closing of border, what do you think about it?
Personally, no.
If I can't go back, I'm asking for help with some money to start a business or buy food stuff to feed my kids. If you have a chance, will you want to go back? We are from Niger, so if we have little money and we get to our border, we have our way to go through into the country. We will go, all of us.
Right, so I have another person here from Niger, Alima, and Alima said,
what brought you to Ghana? My husband is very sick back in Niger, and I have 11 kids. I'm the one who moves around to gather what I can and fend for the family. What do you think about the fight going on in Niger? We will still go back to our country, but we have to gather some money here first. We are the citizens there, and when we get to the border, we'll find our way through, as long as we have some money that we are taking back home.
So I also have Adiza here, who is also in the streets begging for alms. She's also here to share her experience as a Nigerian right inside Ghana. So Adiza say,
how long have you been in Ghana? 2 years.
Okay, 2 years.
What have you been doing in the past 2 years? Like we have all said, we are all here because there is no food back at home. I've not done anything aside begging, and even that, I don't go around to beg. I send my 3 children, and at times, they come with food or some little money.
Adiza, cool.
What about the war back in Niger? What do you think about it? It's not exactly where I'm from in Niger. It's in a different town. So as for us, we are safe. We believe that when we get home, we'll be able to solve ourselves out once we have some money to take back. What did you do back in Niger? There's no job. We cut down firewood and give it to our children to sell in the market. When they go to the market and there's no sales, everyone sleeps hungry, but when there's sales, we cook and everyone at home gets food to eat.
I have Samdia here who is 14 years old. She's also in the street right now and from Niger. Now we want to have an interaction with her. Samdia, it's saying, how are you?
I'm fine.
You are fine. Okay. How long have you been in Ghana?
I've been here with my mother for 4 years. Do you go to school? No, I don't go to school. I stopped going to school back in Niger because my mom said there's no money. So I should cut down firewood and sell. If you had the chance to go back to Niger, would you? Yes, I'll go back with my mother. What are some of the experiences you've been through that will make you go back? We are 8 at home, and my mom brought us out to the street to beg for food and money. If you have the chance, will you go back to school? Yes, I will. What's that one thing you want to do when you grow up? I want to sell things on the road.
Just as you've heard from the Nigerians in the streets of Accra, they've shared some of their experiences and their thoughts on the current coup happening in their country. But if being given the opportunity to go back, they would gladly do so. For Joy News, Jacqueline Ansuma Yaboa.
And of course, there's the economic impact of all of this region situation in Niger. So let's get to it in terms of what you need to know about the economic implications as well. We've been trying to break that down for you, looking at some of the economies as you have it there. You find the Niger being, in terms of the poorest, top 10 poorest country, Niger ranking first there, then follows through with Chad. We have the Central African Republic, Burundi, Madagascar, Mali, Guinea, Mozambique, we have Benin and Ethiopia on that list for you. But then you have it, we're talking about an economy rating around $13.9 billion US, and that's the economy that we are dealing with. And of course, we're looking at what you need to know about the top producers of uranium, because this country is rich when it comes to that resource. You have on the scale of 3 in terms of top 3 producers in Africa. They come second to that's Namibia. Namibia being the leading producer in terms of tons, and 5,400 on the average as of 2021. Niger follows through with some 2,642, and then South Africa also comes through with some 130,000 tons as of 2021. But you see that continuous decline in terms of how the country has been faring. You see the year-on-year, the inflationary rates are not so helpful at all as of where the country finds itself. And that's, of course, raising a number of questions as to why ECOWAS would want to solve this problem militarily. But there's a need for us to also explore the security angles and what the experts have got to say about this very deployment. So we'll get to you shortly. Let's hear from Richard Kumado, who is a security analyst, joining the conversation because following today's meeting, it appears that the committees both on defense and also foreign affairs will be meeting again on the final take, but the president has committed to what it is that ECOWAS has decided. Richard Kumado, welcome to the polls. Let's take your thoughts on this deployment and also, first of all, the disagreements that we see taking place between both the majority side and the minority side. How do you feel that MPs should be approaching this, knowing that we are in a crisis? Well, Richard, are you with us? Okay, it appears we're having some challenge connecting with Richard Kumado there. He's a security analyst. He's back on. Richard, I was just asking the question about what needs to be done now, knowing that we're in a crisis. The call is that all our MPs have to be on one page, at least, to support the president to deploy the forces if indeed that would be our national position. What's your take on this whole division in Parliament as to whether or not the president has the constitutional remit to go on?
Definitely, the president is the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. He has the right to deploy troops in our security interest or in our national interest. But it's also important that the parliamentarians who represent all of us in Parliament will have a bite on it, and they will need to agree as to the way forward. It's not a matter of who lose or who win, but we will need the input of the parliamentarians. And I think whoever is calling for that will be something I will support immensely.
And today, that meeting that we're seeing now between the National Security Minister, the Defense Minister, and also the Defense, as well as the Foreign Affairs Committee in Parliament, do you feel that such engagements are necessary now, knowing that we are, of course, running out of time in terms of what the options are for the Ghanaian military?
No, it's not predominantly the choice for the Ghanaian military. It's an ECOWAS thing, and when you look at what is happening in Niger right now, the terms have changed a little bit drastically. They have appointed a civilian as a prime minister. They have appointed 21 people to the civilian to manage the country. So there's a level of the agency, but the troops have not been that. They have refused to listen.
Richard, it appears we're losing you intermittently. Can you make the point again, sir? Richard Kumano? We seem to be having a challenge with Richard Kumano there. He's a security analyst joining us. Richard, let's try one more time. Richard, can you hear me? Okay, we seem to have lost Richard Kumano there. You're watching The Pulse here on the Joy News channel. When we return, we'll talk about some more stories making the rounds here in the country. Please stay. And in a move aimed at enhancing revenue generation and promoting responsible gambling, the Ghana Revenue Authority is set to introduce a 10% withholding tax on gross winnings from all betting and games of chance, effective the 15th of August 2023. How much do you know about this new tax, and what must you do to ensure compliance? We'll be speaking to the Ghana Revenue Authority shortly on this. First, an interaction with young persons who depend on bets for survival.
Coach Ali is a staunch AC Milan fan whose betting journey started in 2010. A man who has explored different betting platforms says the tax is likely to dash the hopes of the young Ghanaian.
Oh, I started betting around 2010. 2010, yes, in Kumasi. That time we had Safari, My Bet, a couple of Premier Bet and the rest. 2010, yes, and it's not something I will say is bad. It's bad and good, but its disadvantages are more than the advantages. And I've always said betting was introduced to weaken the African youth, so it has a lot of disadvantages than its advantages. You see, it is not proportional. You lose more than gaining, and if you are to gain more than losing, then the betting companies will definitely collapse.
Are you still staking or you've stopped?
For now, I'm thinking about it, because for the past 1.5 seasons, have not won. Okay, have not won, and if you permit me, I would show you my history. I can show you. Have not won, and I've also heard the government is now introducing 10% of what you win because of the economic crisis. I can even show it to you. There was a time I staked 0.02 pesos because I just needed hope. You see, I just needed hope. So and all these, I can tell you, lost. The last time I won a bet is like 2 years ago. But I've been staking 30 cedis, 40 cedis, 50 cedis, 5 cedis, 2 cedis, and 0.02 pesos. So it tells you how the economy is.
The story isn't different for Chikata, a level 200 student of the University of Ghana studying sociology. She says the move is unfair and she expects government to do better.
I don't agree with this, because first, before it was e-levy, and then before the e-levy was introduced, how I saw the country, the development and all that. After the e-levy, I was expecting a difference, like I should see a difference in the development of the country. Maybe this is what the e-levy was used for, but I've not seen any difference before and after taking the e-levy. So to this, I feel taking the 10% is because of the economic crisis we have in the country. And to me, I don't believe after taking this, there's going to be any change in the development of the country. As I thought it was going to be a change. There was going to be a change during the e-levy. So to me, I don't agree with this. And then secondly, when I bet and then I win, you take 10%. But when I lose, what's going to happen? You're not going to give me any 10%. So it's not being fair. After all, it's my money I invested in the bets. And so if I lose and I don't get anything, but when I win, you get something, that's very unfair to me.
Ibrahim is a trader. He thinks otherwise. He tells me that tax on gaming is good, but expects the 10% to be reviewed because the rate is high.
For tax, they are good for us because it's a development thing. We can't refuse from tax. Tax is good. But if you tax the person, if the person who tax it is too high, he can't even pay. Even he will draw from the belt. Understand? So yeah, it will be dodging. Because if I go stay, then I pay 10 cedis, the next time I'll come and stay again. No, I won't come again. But even if you tax me like 2 cedis, then it's good for me. So if you tax me about 10 cedis, I'll even pay more.
The application of this levy is part of a broader review of the income tax on gaming and lottery operations in the country.
It's going to, discourage most of the youths in going through this betting, this lottery and all that. And in another way too, most of us are unemployed. Most of the youth in Ghana are unemployed. So many of them are using these bet platforms to get income, to get money into their account in order to do one or two things that they need to do. So I think in a way it's going to help, but in a way it's not going to help us too.
There are no jobs in Ghana, and the youth would actually be indulging criminal activities such as armed robbery and just to get money for their own benefits. But betting companies have come to make the youth also have a better way of getting money, which is in a way not good, but it's better than being an armed robber or yes.
Someone who had big or plenty and did not make good use of it, that small amount cannot do anything. So what have they done with the e-levy? And mind you are taxing the betting companies. What have you done with it? You are taxing the telcos. What have you done with it? And now you are going to tax the poor boy who comes from Obuasi, who is just trying to buy hope so that he doesn't engage himself in immoral acts. What are you going to do with it? Even the 3 billion, you did nothing with it. What are you going to do with that 10%? It is not going to help us. So you see, one, they are lazy and they are using the lazy man approach. And if you use the lazy man approach, there is no significant impact in the society. So it's better they stop. It has no positives. It has no advantages. I'm urging them, if they think we win, they should take Ghana's reserves, go there and stake and see if the youth win. That is where they will know that they have to put money into the pockets of the youth every month, at least 500 cedis on my momo. Then it comes.
The withholding tax deduction, according to the Ghana Revenue Authority, applies to winnings paid or payable by private lotto operators, sports betting operators, casino operators, route operators, remote interactive game operators, operators of marketing promotions, and operators of other games of chance. James Chance reports for Joy Business.
And now 35-year-old Rashid Ahmed Anata, accused of having carnal knowledge with 12 minors in the Wa municipality of the Upper West region, appeared before the Wa Circuit Court this morning for an in-camera hearing presided over by his Honour, Jonathan Avugo. 9 of his 12 victims came to the court hooded and of course, gave a graphic and chilling evidence against the accused. Anata has the opportunity of cross-examining all of them later. Joining us is Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Wa.
The case of 35-year-old popular MC Rashid Ahmed Anata was heard in camera right at the Wa Circuit Court. 9 of the 12 victims were brought into the court, all wounded. It lasted more than 2 hours. The crowd was there in their numbers, but they have no access to the judge's chamber where the case was heard in camera. Unlike the previous days, there was a police presence to restore order. This is the first time the 35-year-old alleged sexual predator is meeting his victims at the court. 9 of the victims for the first time were in court for the in-camera hearing. All of them were hooded and brought into the court by an Ash Fortuna.
The court decided that it was not proper to expose the victims to the society, because whilst we are trying them at times, we are using them as our witnesses. It is also important, and the law actually mandates us to protect their identity, to try and rehabilitate them in a sort. So we are taking every step that is necessary to secure the witnesses.
Principal State Attorney at the Attorney General's Department in the Upper West Region, Lawyer Said Abdul Shakur, who is leading the prosecution, recounted what transpired in court today.
Witnesses were it was quite graphic, and you wouldn't believe they were children. They told the story in a very, very consistent, very coherent manner. And we put in three of the ladies, 12 years and 13 years. We put them in today, and all of them testified. They were all cross-examined, and then that's how it ended today. So tomorrow we are going to continue with other witnesses.
You also let in on what to expect the coming days.
We are dealing with another set of 2 ladies, the 2 girls that were involved. That's what we are doing. If time allow us, we might deal with 4 ladies, in 2 separate dockets. We might deal with their witnesses. We want to make sure that all the children that are involved, we are able to take all their testimony before we bring in the technical people like the investigator, the medical doctor, to come and testify. But the children, because their evidence is particularly necessary for our case, and particularly because they are very young, and they are, if you allow them time, they might even forget. We are trying to get it as early as possible. So our focus now is getting the evidence of the children before we move to other technical people.
Anata has no legal representation. The case is back in court tomorrow. Reporting for the news, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Well, once in a while, you get women who are defying the odds to venture into areas where men have dominated for centuries. Gertrude Adjoa Ohene Sienim is the executive director for the Wista, which is the Wista Whitestone ship brokers, and also the West Africa School of Shipping. She's a maritime expert and a chartered ship broker, actually. So let's get to hear more about her and why she is in this industry. Thank you, Madam, for joining us. It's good to hear about you. First of all, what do you have to say about the industry that you find yourself in? Is it a correct notion that it's an area for men? What do you have to say about that?
Well, the maritime industry is male-dominated. That's a fact. If somebody once made a joke that they don't have time for women who go on maternity leave on vessels, and although it's a joke, it's something that people hold dear to their hearts when they're employing people into the maritime industry. And so when you go to mostly the operation departments of most companies, you will find no woman at all in the operations department, because they are juggling between ports, getting onto vessels and others. I teach as well at the Regional Maritime University, and it is disheartening to go to the engineering department or the nautical department and find that usually there are just about 2 women in the class or none at all. And so this is a bit worrying. And when you get to the top positions in the maritime space as well, you find less women in the boardroom and other places where women are supposed to be. And so it's very worrying, and that is why we have the organization like WISTA, which is Women International Shipping and Trading Association, that promotes top executives, middle-class executives, and we pull along through mentorship our young ones and train them to become what they want to become by defying the odds and take on roles that are challenging.
Right. So let's talk about WISTA then. What's the membership made of, and would you say that it's been growing ever since?
WISTA International will be 50 years old next year. WISTA Ghana was established in 2010, and so we are growing. We cut across. Westar International is in about 56 countries. It has about 3,800 members and some affiliates. In Westar Ghana, we have membership cutting across almost all the main agencies, the Ghana Maritime Authority, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, the Shippers Authority, all the other freight forwarding associations and other allied maritime industries, from the Regional Maritime University, where we have our maritime ladies as well, that we bring them up. So we are nurturing, we're growing, and we are progressing.
In terms of, mentorship and trying to support other women to come into the space in which you find yourself, what are some of the challenges for you in that attempt, that campaign that you've been running to try and get more young girls to look up to you and to, come into the same space in which you are?
Mostly it's about fear. Mm-hmm. Most women are afraid. And then also it has to do about courses that people... I never got to know about the maritime industry when I was younger until I finished the University of Science and Technology then, UST, Kumasi. And then there was an advert in the newspaper looking for people to do a postgraduate diploma at the Maritime University. Right. And I applied. And that was how I got. You were not even conscious about it? I was not even conscious about it. So that's how I got into the maritime industry. And it's the same for most people. They don't plan to be in shipping because they never hear about shipping. We don't learn about the seas, the oceans, and others in our secondary school books. Most of the time, apart from those who do a little bit of geography and other things, you hardly hear anything maritime on our secondary school campuses and other university campuses. So we want to change this perspective by bringing people up young and training them into that space. Also building up the confidence of people. So Westar International, for instance, has built up what we call the Maritime Speakers Bureau, where wherever you are in the world, you can register on that portal. And if somewhere around your area of specialty comes up, you can be called all over the world to speak. We are also teaching ourselves and the young ones coming presentation skills. You will be surprised that maybe a woman wants to be an MP or wants to stand for a position and they don't even know how to go about it, how to present themselves. Presentation is very important. It includes everything, including what you wear, how you speak, your mannerism, because what we do, I just found out years ago that if you type, for instance, in capital letters to somebody, you are shouting. Yeah. So if you haven't been in the international space, some of these things you won't understand, that a gesture you usually make in Ghana could be offensive to somebody else who's outside of your jurisdiction. So we are trying to build up people's capacity in these areas by training them on one. Yeah. It's always very interesting to work in an international space. I have been blessed by God to be the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers Membership Committee chairperson for the world. Yeah. And so I get to interact with so many people from different countries. And I learn a lot through cultural diversity, communication skills, and others. So these are the things that we want to teach our members as well as our mentees to be able to be assertive in the areas where they find themselves. Let's talk about the contemporary issues within the maritime space as we speak. What are some of the unique challenges, especially for those who are applying their trade in this part of the world? What's the unique challenge in our space here? The maritime industry, as you said, cuts across nations. And so one of the main challenges you find, for instance, in areas where we are, will be exchange rate fluctuations. You import something, you have your budget on duty, other things, the things get to the port, and the exchange rate has gone high. So it means that your cost will go up. We also have many importers buying insurance from outside of the country, which is something that Ghana has legislated for, that insurance should be bought locally, bringing that understanding to the doorstep of why people should take advantage of such a law has also been a challenge, and there's been a lot of sensitization going on and people are buying into this. There's also the space of being competitive in terms of port tariffs, in terms of other fees that our importers are and exporters have to go through, and also the bureaucratic tendencies. And you clear something to an European port and you are there and you get your items with little efforts. Although we have these ICOM systems going on, there's still some little challenges in the system which needs to be cleared up. So in effect, things are moving, but there's a lot more to be done in there.
If there's anything to consider policy-wise that will aid the sector, what are some of the immediate ones we could be looking at?
In terms of policy, maybe I should look at my women first.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair to bring that up always. Yes, it's fair.
Certainly. We need to look at inclusive leadership in terms of appointing people to boards. Countries that have consciously done this, like Norway and others, they have a quota that for boards, 40% of the board members should be directed or reserved for women. And it's because when you have a balance in a workplace, things move faster. Let me give you an example. Those who go to the university recently realize that all the universities are changing their chairs because they want more space. And so you sit on the chair, and that same chair, the arm is what you write on. Imagine a pregnant woman sitting on that chair, writing an exam. It's not conducive. If you don't have an eye there that will see these things, and it's only women who can see these things. So, and the essence of having a very conducive workspace environment. So work-family life balance is very important. Most offices in Ghana, I must say, are not up to standard. You walk into an office, it's a very big space, but the way the space has been kept, or even the washrooms, I don't know how many offices you go around to, but sometimes you run into an office and even the place of convenience is not somewhere that, and women pick a lot of infections and other things in this place. So having a conducive, because we spend most of our time at the workplace. And so the workplace should be a very conducive environment. One flower pot here, something to make it lively for people to work. And also, you know, sometimes when you work and you're a family woman, once in a while maybe your child is sick, but you must be at work. What facilities do we have in our workplaces to be able to put in where if I take, for one reason or another, my child must be at work? Is there any place where the person can sit and have some care for me to be able to work conducively? Or my child closes from school and has to come to work. These are things that we haven't considered very much, but it's getting on in other European countries and others where they've seen that when you're able to add certain facilities to your workplace environment, it gives your employees a sound mind to work, and productivity actually increases. Exactly. So these are things that, if there should be policy changes, we should look at that. Also, probably our maternity leave needs to be looked at.
Indeed, it's an area that we can look at. But looking at the unique story of Whitestone Brokers, how are you using that to inspire change in the sector?
So Whitestone Shipbrokers, it's mainly into chartering of vessels, maritime consultancy, and advisory stages. And we have the West Africa School of Shipping, which is a recognized partner of the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers. So we run 16 courses in shipping with certification from London. And so we are putting in training programs. So our idea is to let people in the maritime space think maritime and talk maritime. And that includes holistic training programs that we put together to bring up people's capacity in the area in which they work. You know, people do things and they do them over the years without understanding the fundamental principles and legal implications of what they do. So we bring them to the practicality of the knowledge they acquire and how they can apply that in their workspace to build their scope to the point that they do their work with understanding, with professionalism, and with ease. And at the Institute of Chartered Shipbrokers, we say that our word is our bond. That is something that we lack in Ghana. People say one thing and they do another thing. We want people to mean what they say and do what they say. And so training people to be able to even appreciate their own work ethics. Every company have their work ethics. Every company have their style of doing things. How to even appreciate that and be able to incorporate it into the core values of the company and grow with it so that it becomes your mentality. That is how you meet a young white boy who's about 25 years old and he's speaking to somebody the way he's so assertive and he's commanding what the area in which he's authority. You'll be amazed. You would think that he's been working for the company for 10, 15 years. But you dig and you realize that he was just an intern who has just been employed. All is because they take the person and they train them. Most Ghanaian companies, is unfortunate to say, do not want to invest in training. So you organize training programs and you realize that it's only the multinational companies that are bringing people. But that is a perception that needs to change.
Yeah, and we need to talk about that some more because when you talk shipping, the perception, an immediate one that comes off anyone's mind will be, okay, this is an area for the multinationals. And it's not an area that you find more Ghanaians in, more indigenous companies also growing in. Do you see that changing over the years?
Shipping cuts across every organization. Even Joy FM, the table you're sitting in came with a ship.
Right.
The chair, everything, 90% of things come by ship.
Right.
And shipping by extension, we can include other modes of transport as well because now we have multimodalism.
Right.
And so things move right from the doorstep of somebody to the desk. So logistics management, project management, planning, it's all part in the shipping chain. And because things are now you have to do from one point to the other.
Right.
And so everybody is involved. And most of the people in the clearing and forwarding sector are mainly Ghanaians. And other Ghanaians also in the ship agency sector. So the shipping sector is wide. From the logistics companies, we have the ship agents, we have the port, mariners, we have cargo surveyors, we have those doing insurance to cover the goods, we have those doing maritime so it cuts across. Shipping is one area where you can find almost every profession in there. You go on board a vessel, you'll find the big vessels like the rigs that operate on our shore. You find a doctor on board. But the doctor must go through basic survival at sea and acquire those certifications to be able to go on board. You'll find cooks there because you need somebody who is well trained to be able to do cooking for those on board the vessel. You'll find stewards, we call them stewards, but they are mainly cleaners. Right. Okay, on board the vessel. So shipping cuts across different arena of professions. But you need to understand the shipping language. You need to understand the way the shipping world operates. Even when you're a lawyer and you want to branch into maritime law, you need to learn about the trade to be able to acquire that skill, to be able to legislate in the maritime law area very professionally and efficiently. So training is very important, no matter the sector you're in. So far as you want to venture into the space of the maritime world, then you need that training to be able to build up your capacity.
Okay, but personally, where did you find that inspiration to connect and to give you that sense of reassurance that, well, this is the area for me, other women can also come in?
I have always been working, I've worked in the oil and gas industry on big projects, seismic acquisition and other areas. And once in a while, people used to invite me. And even in that space, you realize that being at the top, I had been country manager for many multinational companies. And when you go for meetings, people would ask, are you the business development manager? Because for them, it is not a woman's place to be a country manager of an oil and gas company at that level. And people will intentionally send you emails and say, dear Mr. Gertrude, things like that, But the motivation came with, once in a while, people will invite you to come and do capacity building or speak at their events, and you go and they want more. And mostly because you're busy working, it became very difficult to do that. So it became more like a passion. And the quest from people that this is your area. It looks like that's
something you can do.
That's something you can do. And I personally love teaching. So I always tell people that I've worked in so many organizations, but anytime I get to the classroom, I'm in my elements.
And I guess it's because you get to connect much more with people.
Exactly. And a teacher influences a lot more people than people can imagine. You can tell your son something, he won't take it. But if his teacher tells him, he will take it. And I've just realized that teaching at the university, that it doesn't matter whether the person is 60 years old or 20 years old. Insofar as you are their lecturer, there's that kind of connection, that respect, and that kind of, they look up to you. So whatever you say makes a huge impact. So if you have bad teachers in a space, they are influencing people negatively. Insofar as also you have good teachers in a place, they are positively. So we need to be careful who is teaching our children or how adults.
We need to be mindful of that.
Exactly.
And we're glad that we have some of you around still teaching our people. But then looking at the year to come, which is next year, obviously your association will be celebrating 50 years. Are there some plans? Are there some roadmaps towards that celebration?
Yes. Westa Ghana would want to celebrate along with Westa International. So there's going to be an international program that will be released. But with Westa Ghana, at the end of this year, we want to start with Westa community engagement, which means what we're trying to do is, if you have something that you have, most of us have shoes, dresses, old laptops, computers, printers we're not using. Bring it and let's donate it to somebody who needs it.
You're giving,
we're giving back to society. So we are going to have that program, and we are going to target the maritime communities around the areas along the sea. And you realize that there's also a lot of filth that goes on. Whatever we do ends up in the sea. And maritime pollution is a very serious thing. When we pollute the environment, it ends up with us. Because we take the fish and we eat. And so when you open your sewage from your house, remember that when the rain washes it, it's going into the sea, and you and I will eat the fish again from your defecation. And so health hazards and all of that. So we're going to also embark on maritime education, on people sensitization, on the oceans and the benefits, how to keep it clean, how to keep our environment clean, and make sure that we all live in a healthy environment. The blue economy is something on the agenda, and so we're going to pursue that. And working in close collaboration with our maritime agencies like the Ghana Shippers Authority, the Ghana Maritime Authority, the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, the Freight Forwarders Associations, the Ship Owners and Agents Association. These are key on our agenda, how we can all come together and promote the maritime space and build a healthy maritime community.
I see. There's a lot that you're doing. Is there any final word that you want to leave our viewers with, and also maybe share with the young ones who are looking up to you?
I just want to encourage our women and everyone out there who wants to aspire to be, that you can be whatever you want to be when you set up your mind to be. We want to encourage more of our young women to also study the STEM subjects, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, so that they can also get, no matter where you are, wherever you get to at the top, it becomes analytical. Whether you are analyzing a budget, whether you are putting in planning for the next year, it becomes very analytical. So getting into subjects that makes you an analytic, and also everything is changing into the digital space.
Things
so
are
how
changing.
exactly you develop yourself in the use of technology is very important, and how to build your entire personality. That's called personal branding. It's also very important to show where you can get to. So I would advise them to be bold and courageous and take on tasks that would build up their careers to where they want to be.
Well, Gertrude, it's just the start of bigger things to come. I'm sure that we'll reconnect again to talk about that celebration next year. But thank you. Grateful that you've been able to spend some time.
Thank you very much for having us. We're very grateful for inviting us.
Right then. And now commercial drivers who apply the Kun barrier to Michelle Camp and the Sechibediako roads in the Kun Katamaso municipality of the Greater Accra region on a sit-down strike to protest the deplorable nature of their roads in the enclave. There's more in this report by Carlos Colony.
According to the commercial drivers, until they see a contractor on the road, they are not returning to work. Some of them have been speaking to Joy News.
I am a driver and we feel this pace all the time. Our roads here are very bad. They are very, very bad. And we've called on the authority for a series of times. All they say is the road has been awarded to a contractor. We can't remember about a year or two. They came here to cut a sword that this road will be constructed very soon. And we don't know when soon is that road going to be constructed. Because it's quite over 2 years now. And we still keep on suffering. Recently, what triggers this sit-down strike is, recently we saw a video going viral that our MP asked questions about our road. And then the road minister told him that the government has no plan for Konkatamasu roads and other the roads that he mentioned of. So meanwhile, then we got to know that the assembly, they are deceiving us. Meanwhile, each and every day, they come there to collect tolls.
Some commuters have also been expressing concerns over the state of the roads in the area.
I just came to the roadside about an hour ago trying to get a cab to work. But it looks as though the road has been blocked. This is what you can see here. The road is in a very, very, very bad shape. As such, the drivers here are on demonstration and do not want any other driver to use the road. That's why we are all stranded here looking for vehicles to travel to our workplaces.
It's very disappointed because I'm working with vehicle roofing system. I'm staying at home. I have to take car from Barrier to Michelle Camp Gate. And this morning, this is what I've met. And in fact, it's very bad.
The assemblyman from Lichakpo electoral area, Isaac Newton Tete, has this to say.
Leadership have been deceiving the residents all this while, and this is what has angered the residents to stand up now. As I tell you now, we are planning. The next one will be bigger than this one. So it appears that it means that we have to take our destiny into our own hands and ensure that we do our own things. The situation has angered the residents. As I speak to you now, many or hundreds of them today walked on their foot to their various workplaces, and it appears that if we are not careful, this will continue for a very long time.
The MP for the area, Joseph Akwete, says he supports the action of the drivers.
According to the minister, they don't have any program for this road as a ministry. So I quickly called the assembly to inform them what has just happened or what I read in the morning. And the assembly even sent me the document indicating that this road has been awarded. And I had the opportunity to ask a follow-up question to the minister. That this is my checks at the assembly. This is what the assembly is also saying, that they have contracts on this particular road. So if he's also saying that there's nothing on their records, then how are we going to reconcile the two positions? They can only consider this road in the 2024 budget. And as you can see, this road needs urgent attention. So the minister cannot push us to 2024 budget.
And last night, host of PM Express, Evan Smith, took us to the market for a better appreciation of the real cost of food inflation and how the public is reacting. But how are women who sell in our markets affected by such economic upheavals? We hear from them and a management professor shortly. Right now, let's bring in an excerpt from Evan Smith's visit to the Malata market.
And to see, I'm a person with tobacco here. How much is what?
A few more Jumadia and said that any price here, ye chatos.
Okay.
So I say anything beyond a bonnet to me as a son. And I say so. I feel I air conny boom, but I didn't hear a pan and lawler fair.
Lawyer fair.
And then I read.
Now, also transport no, and a hammer pan.
Yes.
Didn't he?
Service you had rubber phone. I didn't take Kukura. On come from to the Kwane Edda.
Baku say, what on I?
Say me what 20.
20 cities.
And I'm
Back 20 cities.
And I'm 25.
And
I'm
30. No 30. Into the board then pay 30.
Yes.
Okay. So what the compare be at time now like say 1 month, 2, 3 months ago. No, not to say.
Oh,
price a change
say a change.
A change a cost.
Eba, say a chair first.
A chair first in terms of price, no.
A chair first, say first no. Can we say we better turn about to say 30.
Back on say no.
Say 25.
Okay.
So what I say.
But
it's like Lord of any to me back from my now also but you could afford it. Brewum, to almost so bra, sister, a bra. Nyadia won't be to me a bit jam my say and Tony for
a season. To say no. A cabbage, the price no from Kakra. But we say green pepper, carrot, no bone was through.
The price is the same in the body.
It's a price no cost room. Remember the price in the bag near 22 million per bag.
22 million. Now on the sense on a bar.
Oh, it's me about 10 million.
First not on
1,000 and as a standard for the full bag. But say being you so no turn an essay no.
Okay.
And to say no bag no.
Not basket three no. Not first not on.
There be a full bag.
Oh, okay.
Where you arrange.
Well, maybe we na 220.
No.
Okay, full bag.
Full bag no.
Okay.
The fee na.
Okay. It's where see who say. Where see who say near.
Which one be say they 200. 200.
200 cities. Okay, 200 cities. So they see where you 200 cities. So let's look at it. Let's clarify that. So what you see in the basket is 200 cities.
Yeah.
First in the bar. Now call it by me here.
100 or 80 cities.
Wow.
Or 70 cities.
Nowadays, the market is not moving like how we want it to. Because of especially this rainy season, it affects our market so much. Normally when it comes to rainy season like this, the cars that will move to the bush to bring out the animals doesn't want to go, because when they go and what?
They get stuck in the mud.
Yeah.
Okay.
So sometimes we find it difficult getting the animals during what? Rainy season.
But also means that they are charging you more for transport.
Yes, definitely.
The animals
yeah.
To you animal at the market.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. The cow, goat, sheep, most of them are what? Coming from our neighboring countries like Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, and Niger.
Also, let's now take a look at some of the issues relating to women traders in the Ghanaian market and some of the challenges they face. Joining us now is Mrs. Comfort Odro Nyako, a former market woman and also CEO of the Makula Foundation. We have Professor Joseph Ofori Dankwa, a professor of management at, is it? Saginaw. I just wanted to get that right because, and in fact, it's a good starting point just to know about the institution and what they do. Can you tell us a brief history about it?
So the Saginaw Valley State University is one of the public universities in the state of Michigan, and I hold the endowed chair in international business at the Kamuna. L. Kamuna College of Business.
Wow, that's amazing. Now we know, at least. So let's get to it, into the dynamics of it. Ms. Comfort, the point about women and some of the unique challenges they face when trading. Okay. You've seen the landscape, you've been there, so you know some of the challenges women face. Which one comes on top of the list for?
Okay, so thank you for the opportunity granted me this afternoon to expose some of the jolts that affect women traders or market women in Ghana. In fact, there are many, but the few that I can touch on right now is the dynamic digital platforms that are available now, which are mostly not exposed to the market women, but this is a digital world. Okay. and everybody must get along and move with it. So how do they also come in?
Yeah.
And secondly, there are a few financial literacy programs that must be exposed to them with the local languages or in the local languages.
Because very often we're doing everything in English.
Which they lack now. And so I was fortunate. I had my education before entering the market. So it wasn't surprising that I was able to make it. Within 3 years, I had acquired a lot of personal assets and business assets.
Amazing.
And so now one may ask why the Makola Foundation.
Yes.
So I was faced by some of these jolts, not out of a lack of knowledge in financial literacy or digital literacy, but I was faced by jolts that were beyond me. And that brought about the formation or the establishment of the Makola Foundation, of which Prof is the founder and I'm also a co-founder. So I exposed some of the jolts that faced me at the marketplaces to Prof, and Prof also did well to help to establish the foundation, which we are using this foundation to help other women to get on board.
So let's get to it then,
to
Prof.
be more inclusive in this digital
age. Prof, let's get to it then. Now we know why the foundation was formed. How are you going about influencing change in the space, in the informal sector?
I think one of the things we're doing is to create a sharpened awareness of the nature of the jolts that these market women face. Sometimes we use the words challenge. But in our opinion,
shouldn't be described.
Challenge does not capture. It does not effectively reflect the trauma that these very talented ladies and women who work in our markets they face. A fire takes place. A person's income totally destroyed. But that's just one. Then when you multiply it with the floods, we know that it will rain. And yet still, the floods. But that's just one part. And then when COVID hit, that's a whole different ballgame. And so a group of us, an eclectic group, including the Makola Foundation, have been working to try to heighten awareness to these jolts, to more systematically represent them, and just to be able to say, hey, in this our world, when these jolts happen, what happens to
our
you?
people? Are you doing it mainly in the form of education? What approach are you using towards dealing with that?
So what we're trying to do is a multi-faceted approach. And one of our approaches is gathering different groups of experts in different areas. For example, someone who has tremendous information about fires, someone who has information about security, because the market women sometimes face all sorts of very, very traumatic security-oriented issues. Someone who is, even more recently, the influx of Chinese traders to the marketplace could be seen as a very, very powerful jolt. And so how are these jolts affecting our women? What is currently being done and what recommendation.
I see.
Okay.
So how about the issue of targeting these women, identifying them, meeting them, and periodically engaging them?
Great.
Have you been doing that?
Yes, I've been doing that because I've been with them.
Okay.
I was at the Makola market, or where some people call Okanshi market, for years.
Okay.
And then I established...
You've been doing that for
years. I started Makola market at year 2004.
That's a long time ago.
Yes, but for a few hitches here and there, the same joke.
Yeah.
That kicked me out of Makola, sent me to Kaneshi Market, behind the post office, where I rented 4 shops and started doing what I was doing at Makola again. Yet another joke, fire.
Oh.
Yes.
So
fire got all my wares, and then I couldn't get any helper. And so these are some of the things that we have seen and I have gone through, and I'm exposing other women to. And I'm so lucky to be part of the Ghana Enterprises Agency's training for women. And so I'm able to interact with them, and I catch them quick and then bring them to the
That's amazing.
for training.
But the issue about policy and how we can also get authorities, local assemblies to also partner your group. Prof, are you considering some of these options? Are these issues that you...
Yes, we are. And indeed, this coming Friday, we have a group that we're meeting to put together our thoughts and brainstorm and actually present our suggested recommendations. And then we've been very, very fortunate to have a very talented young man, relatively, Dr. Soji Tete, who is the chair of the Center for Social Justice, who is also working with us together with Professor Meishi in the United States. And part of what we are saying is that when these jolts take place, they do surely have some social justice implications. And I think Dr. Soji has been really emphasizing that aspect of that.
But beyond, just the market women, how about their families? Are you also, mindful about the remote factors that contribute to their success or otherwise in the market?
Yes, indeed. And we do have one gentleman, Inspector Kwesi Ofori, and his colleague, who are also emphasizing the fact that when these jolts take place and these market women are affected, it's not just them, but their families.
Extended.
And then, especially if they are the main breadwinner, the ripple effect of these jolts on these women into the communities are all very well laid. So we have one of our members, and as I mentioned, Inspector Kwesi Ofori, who would be particularly emphasizing this aspect of the effect on the families and the effect on the communities.
Okay, so let's, of course, leave a final word with our viewers. I'm sure that probably you are open to inviting some more persons to join the network. What message would you want to...
So the message I have for women, entrepreneurs, women in business, market women, is that we rent people's shops to do business in them. But the major or principal jolt I felt at the marketplace was litigation about my shops. Unfortunately for me, I had 3 shops housed in the same building. And so when there was litigation on that shop, it affected everything, my business. And then when there was fire, the one I rented the shops from at Kaneshi, maybe didn't have insurance on the property. And these are major jolts that we must create the awareness. So my plea to other market women and fellow women entrepreneurs is that whenever or wherever we want to rent a place for our businesses, we should ensure that the landlord or landlady has the requisite insurance policy in place for the building.
Yeah.
And then we as market women or entrepreneurs must ensure that we also ensure our assets or our wares. We make sure we ensure them, our inventory.
Prof, your final words?
Okay.
Final words is this greater need for what these women go through. And if it would help, we should be using this jolt lens. And perhaps if it would help to create awareness, we should be talking about the joltification that takes place in the marketplace.
I'm grateful that you have spent some time with us here on The Pulse. But before we go, it's official. Joy FM, Joy Prime, and other multimedia group platforms are the media partners for the biggest street carnival in Ghana. That's the Chalewati Festival. Organizers of the event have signed an MOU with the media group MGL to push the unique Ghanaian and African culture, as well as the heritage, through art, music, food, dance, and many more. Joy Prime's Joan Nyame has more.
It's a colorful festival of sights and scenes. Chalewati Street Festival draws thousands of revelers to Accra to witness rich African heritage through art, music, food, dance, dress, you name it. This year, the organizers of the Chalewati Festival have partnered with Joy Prime, Joy News, Joy 99.7 FM and Hits 103.9 FM to promote the development of an independent creative arts economy while achieving the mission to sell and promote Ghana.
At Multimedia Group, we are very excited about this, knowing that we are able to even promote this program, this event. And I believe it's not just going to be an event, but a series of them. It's something that we are going to back with all our platforms and ensure that it becomes a big success.
A member of the organizing team, Annie Osabote, is confident of the multimedia group's ability to use its platform to influence the appreciation of Ghanaian art.
I believe that this partnership is going to further enhance that, give us also the leverage to be able to see how we'll continue to channel good content, amazing works, and also to influence and impact the community itself.
Over the years, Jamestown has hosted the festival. Just as its name suggests, Chalewati is flip-flopping to a new location this year. Co-founder of the festival, Manche Ayikwe, gives details.
We have relocated to Osu from the Independence Square all the way into the Osu Township. So we are talking about the Agric Extension building, where the High Court complex is, all the way down into the Independence Square, into the Osu Castle, into the Osu community, all the way down to Oxford Street, and all up to the Osu Cemetery traffic lights coming towards Accra Sports Stadium and routing it back into Independence Square.
The 2023 Chalewati Festival is themed Magneto Motherland. It will explore the historical movements that are embedded in a popular consciousness and promises to be an experience worth being part of. So, Chale, come along. Let's go make unforgettable memories at Osu from August 21 to 27, 2023. Joan Nyame's report, read to you.
And that's all we have for you in this package. I'm blessed with log on to myjoyonline.com for more stories. Next, it's Let's Talk Showbiz. Thanks for watching.